At the moment with Marvel's Avengers, one of the weakest areas of the game is in regards to the gear that actually drops for the characters and the fact that it's really not exciting at all, and that applies to all rarities of gear, from your common gear all the way up to your exotic gear. Now there are a few exceptions to this to an extent, and I say to an extent because I believe that exotic gear needs a complete overhaul. All of them need to be taken back to the drawing board and completely changed to make them a lot more exciting. But in the moment, with the current state of gear in the game, there are still some exotics that in comparison to the rest of the gear pieces that drop that are actually pretty good for your characters. So that's what we're going to look at in this video. We're going to look at the top 10 exotic pieces of gear. I'll talk about what builds you would actually use them on in regards to the relevant character, and also where you farm them as well. So let's jump in and let's check out these gear pieces. Before we do break these down, I'll quickly mention that although this is a top 10, it's not in any particular order at all. Now, the first item we have up on screen here, this is your melee slot 1 for Black Widow. This drops in your heroic hives, so that's the one that's got the 14 floors. Now, your first two perks in this are just your standard variable effects, so it's a random status effect on a random attack as well, but the one that you're really looking for is the third perk. Now, this is amazing on Black Widow, the reason being that she has her overcharge status. She'll only maintain it as long as she's not actually hit. So with this third perk, you have your percent chance when hitting an enemy with a melee critical attack to activate a Jarvis barrier. It protects you against damage for 20% of your max health. Now when you have that Jarvis barrier, and if you are actually hit and you have your full overcharge status, it won't take that status down because it won't count as you actually being hit. This of course would be used with a melee Black Widow build, but pretty amazing item this one. We're staying with Black Widow and the Heroic Hive for this next exotic. This one is your slot 4. It's a Red Room Coil, so it offers Spectre's Terror. It's a guaranteed chance of landing a critical hit when attacking an enemy from behind while invisible. Stealth Blitz, which is a 15% increased damage when invisibility is active, and then Spectre's Cloak, which increases the duration of invisibility by 3 seconds. So with this you'll be invisible for longer, you'll be doing more flat damage, and you'll be getting your guaranteed crits based on your positioning as well. Now the stats on it are fixed, it's proficiency and might, so this will work best with a melee build because you're not getting your precision there. We move on to Captain America and the Mega Hives next. So the Mega Hives are the hives that have over 40 floors to them. So this is his melee slot 1. The first two perks are just your standard variable effects, but it's the third perk you'd want to farm this for. So it's Brazen Jarvis Barrier. You have a percent chance when hitting an enemy with a melee crit attack to activate a Jarvis Barrier. Now he doesn't get the same benefit the way Black Widow does from the Jarvis Barrier, but the fact that he's a tanky style character and he'll be able to proc this really pretty easily because it is on melee crit, it will really help out his survivability. Now I will mention the fact that when you're using Brooklyn Brawler at the moment, this doesn't actually proc for some reason. I'm not sure if that's a bug and they will change it, but I'm pretty certain in future we'll be looking at some changes to heroic charge rates, so we won't have as high an uptime on Brooklyn Brawler, and this will really shine there. We're staying with Captain America for this next item, but this one's actually the Heroic Hives, so that's the 14 floor hives. So this is your defensive slot. It offers your reflexive Jarvis barrier, percent chance when parrying an incoming attack to activate the Jarvis barrier, counter extension, which increases the duration of the debuff applied to enemies after a successful parry by 3 seconds. Neither of them seem that great, but it's when you get to this third perk it could certainly be useful. So this one is Aggressive Restoration. It restores 5% of your max willpower whenever you defeat a taunted enemy. Now Cap's kit actually allows him to have really high uptime on taunts, and also his kit, while he's a tanky style character like the Hulk or like Miss Marvel, if you build it that way, he doesn't have any great ways to actually regen his willpower, so using this would be a nice way to get your health back up again. We have Hulk up next. It's just the one exotic we'll show off for him. It drops from the Mega Hives. This particular one is your Heroic slot, so that's your slot 4. Offers Aggressive Might, increases the damage dealt to taunted enemies by 15%. Heroic Assistance, increases the charge rate of Heroic support ability by 18%. That is Bone Shaker, and that's what allows you to taunt. And then Aggressive Might, that increases the damage dealt to taunted enemies by 22%. Now the percentages can actually slightly change, but you're looking at round about an additional 40% additional damage to enemies that are taunted after you use use Bone Shaker. So you can get a ton of damage buffs from Bone Shaker, and then you can get this additional 40% damage as well, and you can absolutely annihilate enemies with this. We move on to Iron Man next. This drops from your Heroic Hives. This is your slot 2, so this will be for your ranged build. And at the moment, if you're running a ranged Iron Man, then you really want to go for the missile build, but you have your variable effect. Now ideally you want to look for your Cosmic, Plasma or your PIM. The reason being, when you activate your arc barrier, you get shock damage on enemies, and then if you follow up with attacks from this, you'll be doing a huge amount of damage. Now to supplement that even more, you have Armory Modifier. So this one here has got 25% increased status damage of all weapons. So when you're combining your positive and negative status effects, which is pretty easy to do on Iron Man, your damage numbers will go through the roof with this one. We're sticking with Iron Man for this next exotic item. This one drops from the Heroic Hives, so this one can actually work really nice on a laser focused melee build. So this is the Heroic Quantum Reactor. It has static overload, so Arc Field's defensive barrier now electrocutes nearby enemies, so when you pop this, you'll be getting your shock damage for a longer period of time, and then when you use your lasers, which inherently has plasma in them, you'll be getting your positive and negative status effects, meaning you're doing a huge amount of damage. The other perks we don't have the name of these perks, but we can see what they do. The second one grants 10 points of intrinsic energy when performing takedowns, and with this setup, if you're using lasers, you'll be stunning enemies very often, getting a ton of takedowns, so you can get your overcharge filled up again, and also increase the charge rate of the heroic support ability by 18%, and that will be your arc field that you're actually increasing the rate of. So overall, with a melee laser Iron Man build, this would work really nice. We have some Miss Marvel exotics next. This one here drops from the Heroic Hive, and from a support perspective it really is unrivaled. Now, firstly, it offers Mighty Spirit. It adds a team damage buff to any team member affected by Team Spirit that increases all damage dealt by 20%, and you get multiple charges of the support skill that can proc this. The next two perks, we don't have the name, but we have the description. So the second perk adds a crit attack chance bonus of 35%, which is absolutely huge, to any team member affected by Team Spirit. And then the third one is increases charge rate of heroic support ability by 18%, allowing her to use the heal more often and give her teammates the buffs. So from a support perspective, this really is absolutely amazing. The next item we look at is from Miss Marvel once again. It's also from the Heroic Hives, and it's another great support item. So this one is your slot 3, offers Guardian Spirit. It's a 15% damage reduction from attacks for any team member with Team Spirit active. Heroic Assistance increases the charge rate of the heroic support ability by 18%. Again, that's your heal, allowing you to get it quicker, especially if you pair it up with the last item we looked at. And then Healing Spirit Recovery, it's 200% increased willpower regen from Healing Spirit. That part's not too important, but the bits you're really looking for is the 15% damage reduction and increasing the charge rate of the heroic support ability as well. So put the slots 3 and 4 exotics from the Heroic Hives together from Miss Marvel, and you've got an incredible support setup. For the final exotic, I'm actually going to show off two here, because I know if I don't include one of these there'll be lots of comments about it below. But the first one on the left hand side drops from the Mega Hives, the second one drops from your Heroic Hives. Now they both occupy the same slot, slot 4, your heroic slot. If you look at the Mega Hive one first, you've got Lethal Jarvis Barrier. It's a % chance when defeating enemies to activate the Jarvis Barrier. Jarvis Barrier on for the same way as Black Widow works, is that when she's or he's overcharged, they get the additional damage bonus, and your Jarvis Barrier allows you to keep that up for even longer, so that's why that is really nice. You've also got Ultimate Heroic Charge Rate there, increases the charge rate of the heroic ultimate ability by 18%, and then the final one increases the maximum energy of the Odin Force meter by 10%. Now this of course is pretty amazing, but the reason I'm not including it as the top item that you would farm for 4 is that on his slot 1 he can actually get Jarvis Barrier on crit, and that is far better, and you'll have far higher uptime in that. So for that reason, you'll have your Jarvis Barrier on slot 1, so it means you don't really need it on your slot 4, and you can go for the one in the right instead. That's the Heroic Thunderer Girdle. So this one here offers Asgard's Dominion, increases all damage dealt while overcharged by 20%, and with your Jarvis Barrier up, you'll have that for even longer. Lightning Potentiator increases the amount of shock damage with any attack by 24%, and then Asgard's Fury increases the amount of overcharge overcharge energy gain from all attacks by 15%. So you'll be doing more damage when overcharged, you'll be able to hit overcharge status quicker and pair it up with the slot 1 I was talking about. It is just a random legendary drop, but it has the Jarvis barrier on crit, and then you can really go to town on 4. But that is the top 10 exotic items in the game at the moment. As mentioned, I really do feel that the whole system needs a complete overhaul, but despite that, there are still some exotics that are better than others, and these are the ones that I certainly feel are better than the other ones. Let me know if there's any ones you found in game that you feel should be included in the list, and thanks for tuning in, stay safe, and I'll see you all again soon.